on. So I shall read the resolve first. Joint resolution recognizing the tragic expulsion of the residents of Malaga Island, Maine, in 1912, and rededicating ourselves to the people and the Maine ideals of tolerance, independence, and equality for all peoples. Whereas Malaga is a small, rugged island of less than 1 square mile situated in Casco Bay, on the shores of off the shores of the town of Phippsburg in Sagadahoc County and the town of Harpswell in Cumberland County. And whereas from about 1870 to 1912, Malaga was home to a mixed-race Maine community of people of Scots, Irish, Anglo, Portuguese, Native American, and African-American ancestry, among many others, struggling to survive as boatmen, fishermen, carpenters, laundresses, as many rural islanders did of that era. And whereas in that era, for fear of being taxed to support alleged, quote, chronic pauperism, unquote, nearby towns denied that Malaga existed within their town waters, and amid lawsuits, actual ownership of Malaga laid in dispute for decades. And whereas in that era, the now disgraced eugenics movement claimed that poverty and intemperance were genetic traits due to quote-unquote impure blood, and used pseudoscience to reinforce racial and social stereotypes, holding Malaga and other isolated Maine communities up to ridicule, even in the national press, including the sensational Queer Folk of the Maine Coast, quote-unquote, in Harper's Magazine in 1909. And whereas in that era, prime island real estate, including Malaga, suddenly caught the eye of speculators and developers eager to build resort hotels for Maine's booming tourist trade. And whereas in 1911, amid such tensions, Maine's Governor Frederick Plaisted and his executive council personally led an expedition to investigate conditions on Malaga Island, and thereafter paid about $400 to clear title to the island in the name of the state of Maine, which took possession. And whereas in 1912, as public policy, the state of Maine evicted all Malaga Islanders from their homes, paying token sums for the structures, ordered the Malaga schoolhouse, wharves, and houses removed or destroyed, dug up the island graveyard, jumbling all remains into common caskets, and forcibly relocated many islanders to the Maine School for the Feeble-Minded at Pownell, where some spent the rest of their lives, where the deceased of Malaga lie in mixed graves to this day. And whereas in 1925, the state of Maine, by law, allowed forced eugenic sterilizations of many residents of the Maine School for the Feeble-Minded in order to, in the words of one Maine state senator, quote, permanently improve the human race and enforce sound, decent, and efficient human beings. And whereas, with Malaga deserted and the islanders dispersed or institutionalized for almost 100 years, the true story of Malaga disappeared into mystery and myth, a half-remembered legend deeply tinged with heartbreak, sorrow, loss, and shame, rarely referred to openly even by the scattered descendants of the Malaga Islanders themselves. And whereas the last known living former Malaga Islander died in 1997 at the age of 103. And whereas in recent years the story of Malaga has been rediscovered and has been the subject of books, national publications, television productions, university studies, archaeological digs, and a prominent Maine public radio production, Malaga Island, a story best left untold, and has been the subject of the Maine State Museum special exhibition for the centennial in 2012. And whereas in 2001, the Maine Coast Heritage Trust purchased Malaga Island, which now serves as a nature preserve, a University of Maine archaeological site, a landmark on the Maine Freedom Trail, and a place of education, reflection, and renewal. Now, therefore, be it resolved that we, the members of the 124th Legislature, now assembled in the second regular session, on behalf of the people of Maine, we do recognize with profound regret the tragic displacement of the Malaga Islanders in 1912 in the name of the disgraced eugenics movement, with its overtones of prejudice against poverty, racism, and stereotyping, and while rebuking this past, we rededicate our future to the ideals of tolerance, independence, and equality of all peoples in our ever-changing world, which are the birthright and heritage of all proud Mainers, and rededicate ourselves as lawmakers to the social and economic justice that is the right of all peoples. And be it further resolved that suitable copies of this resolution, duly authenticated by the Secretary of State, be transmitted to the Maine Coast Heritage Trust, the Maine Historic Preservation Commission, the Maine Historical Society, the NAACP, and the Descendants of Malaga Island. And that is the document that our young friends who share in its story too are holding up for you all to see today, with the signs and seals and signatures of the officials of the state. This was the presentation speech that I had the privilege of making on September 12th, 2010, out on the island at the dedication of the Maine Freedom Trail marker, and the occasion of the presentation of apology on behalf of the people of Maine by the Governor of Maine, the Honorable John Baldacci. From the mainland to Malaga is just a few hundred yards, but it has stretched across almost 100 years. It is a short trip, but a long journey. We meet today to dedicate one more signpost of a step along that journey. All here today know the Malaga story. Many bear it in their blood. All bear it in their hearts. It needs no repeating. Its warp and woof weaves threads of the poverty and struggle and race and rejection, suspicion, segregation, bad science, but good hearts and long hopes. And in the end, perseverance. In short, it is the warp and the woof which weaves the fabric of all the American experience. That is a long journey, one nowhere near done. It leads us here today from Malaga Island, Maine, and its complex, sad, yet heartfelt and ongoing story. We cannot deny our past, but we do not have to be its prisoner. Malaga has been rescued from forgotten memory. Malaga descendants have rediscovered their roots. Malaga's story has educated a new era of students and amazed a new era of Mainers. If by recommitment to our better side, and if by remembering the full, compelling story, and if by rededication to the American search for equality, opportunity, and tolerance, and the long labor that all of those things will require, if so, then in the long story of Malaga, its redemption may become more important than the removal. Only we can make that happen. We who stand here today in the middle of the arc of that ongoing story of Malaga and of America. We make one more step on that journey today, and we leave another footprint to mark it. Today, Malaga belongs to the Maine Coast Heritage Trust, but its memory belongs to us all. So, at last, peace to Malaga. May scientists explore its secrets. May students study its mysteries. May Mother Nature reclaim her own. And may the old ghosts find peace at last. No one will ever live in Malaga again. But in a sense, a piece of it belongs to each of us forever.